Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this lovely. What the hell was that in the back of my throat? Good God. It was like an alien or something that just jumped in my esophagus as I was trying to pontificate my point. My bad. Welcome, everybody that's tuning in today. It is Sunday afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. It is looking like 7:07 p.m. on the East Coast. It's apparently like 4:07, if I'm not mistaken, if you live in the West Coast, California, where I like to say that herpes was invented because of that Coachella Fest that happened years ago. I'm not sure. Anyway, for those that are tuning in for the first time, and you may think that this is a regular thing where we, get together, gather together, congregate, whatever you want to call it on a Sunday. Nah, I make exceptions depending on who the people are. I've been looking to get this dude on here for a couple of months now, ever since I would say like I hit the TikTok scene, providing my social commentary and everything like that. So this should be fun. This should be fruitful. This should be challenging. At the end of the day, y'all know me, man. We here to lead with love. If you want division, go do your math homework. We're going to seek to understand, not to be understood. Nuance is my niche and context is my favorite color. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to drop the intro real quick.
They threw my ancestors in the ocean. Now we became the new wave, and we're about to drown this system. Every time I go in, every time I go in, every time I go in, boy, I'm jamming. Every time I go in, every time I go in, every time I go in, boy, I'm jamming. I'm a kid, I'm a kid, I'm a kid, man. I'm jamming. I'm a kid, I'm a kid, I'm a kid, man. I'm jamming.
Welcome, everybody, to the Kid Casper podcast. I'm your gracious, beautiful, blessed, beloved, and black host, the kid that they call Casper. The KID in Kid Casper stands for that king of development. I'm that menace with the melanin. Reject me as I am, as long as he's still relevant. This is your first time tuning in today. Hello, I'm that quirky kid the kids they call Casper. I'm a Christian rapper slash activist. I love Jesus. I am super far from a pacifist. Graphic designer, taco enthusiast, ghostthreads.com. That's how we pay the bills around here. What we do here on the Kid Casper podcast is that we engage culture through a lens, trying to understand, build bridges, at the same time dissolving these different walls that divide us, so we can conquer some of these very things that we are all up against and we want to dismantle, like white supremacy, the patriarchy, you name it. Weird people that put raisins in potato salad, all that stuff is demonic. We need to just come against all that. My guest this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is somebody I consider, I would say, like, as far as like people in this space, providing like social commentary, a big figure in my opinion, polarizing, abrasive, very opinionated, but at the same time, it's still refreshing. It's distilled enough to the point it is 100 proof. It just may not be to your exact tasting in the sense. I think it's refreshing. For those that know me, like, only thing I sugarcoat, only thing that come out of my mouth that sugarcoated or that I even come near me that is in the sense sugarcoated is Kool-Aid. That's it. The truth tastes like cough syrup and it's cherry flavored today. Today my guest is, y'all may know him as Mute the Media. Y'all might know him as the one, I would just say the one white guy on TikTok that has better curls than most people do. But he said I can address him as Matt today. So, brother Matt, welcome to the Kid Casper podcast. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, appreciate it, man. It's really good to see you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm doing pretty good, man. Can't complain. It's a nice stormy day here in California, so I'm having fun with it.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So first off, I'd like to say thank you for accepting my invitation. I know we've been trying to do this for months. It's either when you were available, I was busy. When I was available, you were busy. We've been getting in good trouble on different sides of the country, essentially. But we were finally able to create time today. So once again, thank you for sharing the space with me today, brother.
100%, man. Back at you. Like I know, like you said, it's been kind of tough to link up, especially because, like I was telling you before, trying to get this whole social media thing going, trying to get the page going, and I was like, you know what, dude, I've been like missing this guy. We got to just lock this down. So I'm really glad we can make this happen today. I'm excited for the conversation because I know checking out your page and some of the things you're about, it's not exactly the total sphere I'd be in, but I like your approach to things, and I think that's what matters the most. Is like you said, understanding and nuance and things of that nature. So I think that's why we click the way we do, at least when checking out content and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is gonna be dope. This is gonna be dope. So, one thing that I want to do, especially when it comes to these like this space, as far as like not only like activism in the arts, just being able to like understand people, and my big thing is humanizing the content creator. It's one thing to know the content, and it's one thing to know the creator, but then to just remember to that these people are human at the end of the day. So I'm like, you know what? I want to get to know Mute the Media, or AKA Matt. You know what I'm saying? So tell everybody that is watching today and that will watch us on the playback, tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you feel like divulging, completely up to you, but tell us a little bit about yourself today.
So to humanize myself, let's do it. So some like my interests and things like that beyond like the political scene and human rights and stuff like that is I love sports, man. I love sandwiches. I love hanging out with friends and family. That's kind of the way I kind of keep things a little sane because, this space can get really intense sometimes and it could be really heavy. I love to just read, dive into books. I love knowledge. I love just expanding my mind, trying to find new things. I consider myself just your average dude away from all this stuff, man. Like you said, we can kind of get a perception of how people are through a screen and through kind of how they portray themselves on social media. And a lot of that is who I am. But then when you get to like the interpersonal level and conversations like this, you do lose a bit of that edge, right? As you kind of humanize people and you get away from that scene. So I'll keep it simple, man. If I was really to reduce myself down to something, I'm just a guy who loves sandwiches. Seriously. People think
a
I'm
guy
kidding.
who loves sandwiches. Okay, so just a black dude that likes tacos and just a white dude that loves sandwiches. Gotcha. Awesome. My next intense question. These are like the only ones I only like rehearse like 3 questions every time. I already asked you to tell us a little bit about yourself. My next question is on my super intense scholastic question is, if you had to pick a favorite Disney princess, what Disney princess would that be?
Ooh, my first thought went to Cinderella, but I don't know if that's actually who I'd pick, man. I like Belle. Belle's pretty cool, but I'll be honest, I only watched like the classic Disney's. I haven't watched like the last 10 to 15 years, like newer stuff that's come out. Um, I'd probably go with Belle though, from Beauty and the Beast. I think that's who I go with.
Alrighty. And let's hope that you're not cooler than me by any means. If you had to pick a starter 6 Pokemon set to go against the Elite 4, what starter 6 would they be?
Oh gosh, this is where I'm gonna lose some credibility with so many people. So like, how do I pick this? Like, what like the starter 6? Like, do I go with like the original show? Do I get to pick a few
You
Pokemon? Or?
pick any 6 you want. I had somebody pick like 6 Mewtwo's. I thought that was a little overkill, but yeah, this is completely up to you.
I mean, I think Pikachu you got to go with. I think I got to go with Pikachu, just a classic there. Charizard I got to go with for sure. The big 3 there: Charizard, Blastoise. I'm gonna go with it, dude. You gotta help me. Is it Ivysaur or Venusaur? Which one's the third?
I think it's Venusaur.
I'm gonna go with Venusaur there. Pikachu's my 4th. I would go with Mew before Mewtwo, but I don't think either one of them. Maybe what were those like the legendary birds? Like the legendary birds, man. Like the geez Louise. I'd want to go with one of them. What's the dragon one? See, what's that dragon one they can never see? That's always flying around. It's like kind of like a myth, but not a myth. Might go with him. Those are the 4 I'd start with, and I'd have to probably pick 2 of the like legendary, those legendary birds that have like I think one's snow, like ice, one's electricity, and one's fire. I could be wrong about that.
So the frozen one is Articuno, Moltres is fire, Zapdos is the thunder one. So yeah,
Articuno for sure. Out of those 3, I'm definitely gonna go with Articuno. And I already got Pikachu. I'm just going with Articuno then, because that kind of rounds it out with the big 3 with Pikachu. I got 5, and then maybe Mew. I go with Mew, maybe. That's my 6.
Alrighty then. First off, you pass, because most people, which is funny because I always tell people, hey, please just review my content a little bit, because I'm gonna ask. This is the same thing I ask everybody. So every time they get caught off guard, I'm like, you did that to yourself. You didn't study before you came here, so that's on you. So like I said, one of the things that I look to do, because I'm like ever since I saw you, your polarizing takes. I say polarizing not to be a contrarian by any means, because I do appreciate I do appreciate like your thoughts, especially in this fight to dismantling white supremacy. At the same time, I kind of want to get to know the people that are like, essentially fighting for my black skin. That's just something that, I like to establish some sense of intimacy with these people, with people that are doing this work. And also at the same time, provide you the time and space to kind of share your story. So, as far back as you can remember, tell us the early stages of a young Matt.
So this one's kind of interesting, right? So like my whole like kind of start with like activism, with politics, with human rights. It begins with my dad. That's the easy starting point because he's from Iran, and he was active against the Shah when he was young in the 1970s. And then after the Islamic Revolution, he really stepped up his activism against the Iranian regime, which is still in power now. So it starts with that because he was forced to flee the country because he tried to support things like democracy, human rights, secular government, things like that, and that doesn't fly over there. And so his life was at risk, and I'm not going to go too much in the details there. If you're interested, we can. But he was able to escape the country, and he maintained that fight even here. And so he helps like a grassroots movement, the Organization of Iranian American Communities, and they support the NCRI, which is the National Council of Resistance of Iran. And that's a lot of things they do, right? Demonstrations, protests, trying to highlight legislation as it relates to Iran and things like that. So from a really young age, I was kind of confronted with this to some extent. And I always enjoyed like listening to their conversations, like from like 8 to 9 and up. I didn't always get it, but I liked being in that sphere even when I was young. And so that had a pretty big influence on me. And I realized early on, just seeing the kind of mainstream media take, corporate media take, the way our government talked about Iran and some of my dad's groups and stuff, I realized it was just lies, man, outright lies. And then you get to a certain point where you realize, you kind of get a little older and your perspective kind of expands like, well, if they're lying about my people, they're probably lying about other people too. And it starts to make you at some point kind of question, dig more into the narratives you see across like demographics and countries and ethnicities and things of that nature. So.
Gotcha. So you said, I think I remember seeing that on one of your videos. You were saying like, in one of your TikToks, I think you said like your dad was on the way to being executed. It was either he had to choose between like essentially fall in line or be executed. He chose the latter. And then and it's not to say that this is farce by any means or say that this is made up. But you said that he, if I'm quoting you correctly, he essentially, made a pretty close relationship with a guard essentially, and he was able to save his skin. That's
100%,
pretty
dude.
powerful. If you wanted to talk a little bit about
I can expand on that. I can totally expand on that. Yeah. So this guard was actually someone he'd gone to college with in India. So when he was 17 to 18, he left Iran to go to school in India, in Bangalore. And he was there for 4 years and, of course, met various people and whatnot. And he came back to Iran, established his businesses.
What the heck? Hey, hold up. We lost him, guys. Hold on, guys. We're waiting for him. I'm trying to make sure he comes back. What happened? 1 second, guys. It looks like he might have just dropped. He has a bet. Okay, cool. Appreciate the appreciate the filler. He will come back. I would assume so, because he was in it. He was really, really getting into it. So, hey, everybody. You said Northern California internet. I mean, I don't know anything about California. While we're waiting on Brother Matt to come back, why don't everybody that's in the comment section let me know where you are watching this from. It does happen with you guys. I mean, I kind of understand that. I live near a base, and every time that like they test bombs around here, they knock my bandwidth out a sync and everything like that. So it's wild. But while I'm waiting for him to come back, why don't everybody tell us where you are watching this from. Give this video a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Oh, there he is. There's this man with his beautiful curls. What happened, man?
You love to see it, man. They don't want the message to get out, I guess. So, or Google Chrome does a Google Chrome thing sometimes. But yeah, so back to kind of continue from where we're at. So he met the guard actually originally in school in India, and so this was years later. And the way this works in Iran, man, you can get arrested for anything if you don't fall in line with the regime, right? I mean, it's simple. And like I said, I give a really easy example, but it could be as simple as just having an opposition newspaper, no matter your age, no matter your background, things like that. And you're not going to get a hearing. You're not going to have any kind of judicial system that's like fair, right, in any sense. So there's no no ability to actually like argue for yourself or say like why you had this or anything like that. Not that it would matter to them, right? And so he was in prison, and basically this guard at his own risk did help him escape. And he was forced to flee the country, man. He was forced to flee the country. He went to Turkey, and he was able to come over here. He came to this country with $50, no English. We had my uncle who lived in Sacramento, who he was able to crash with and kind of have some support in that sense. And that's the hard part about this country, is because you're confronted with the reality of what it does abroad and obviously here. But then at the same time, I also saw what it afforded him to some extent, right? Because he did kind of start with nothing. And like, I hate to feed him that bootstrap narrative, but to some degree, he was able to make something for him here. And that's why, like, I really admire him, because I think I have more anger and animosity towards this country for what it did to him and his country than he does sometimes, or he's just hella zen, man. Like you said, you've seen kind of my polarizing tanks and stuff like that. I don't have like his ability to be calm about his own story even. But yeah, that was kind of what the position he was confronted with, because the way it worked there is there's kind of 3 levels within the prison or jails of how it would work. They would have people who they knew were going to flip, or just, and it's nothing wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong with this, man, because the torture and the conditions you're under, it's like it would break almost anybody, right? So there's nothing wrong. Like, I'm not like judging people who did flip, but they would have people who they knew were going to flip, and they would try to use them against. There are people kind of in the middle who they weren't sure about, and there's the people who were really resolute. And like I've talked about in some of the videos, in 1988 they killed 30,000 plus alone. In about a 3-month span. There was a fatwa from the Ayatollah, which is pretty much just a religious decree. And 90% of the people who were killed were part of the MEK, which was the group he supported, right? The Mujahideen al-Qaeda. But there were others, people who were like, Marxists, communists, different groups, opposition groups, things of that nature. But he was resolute, man. He was really resolute in his beliefs. It's kind of what ostracized him from his family and things early on. And it's a standard, like I said, I always try to live up to, because I think most of us, if we have like a father figure or someone in our lives who's a good impact on us, we really admire them. And as I've gotten older, I don't like the light doesn't shine off. You know what I'm saying? Like, as I get older, I just admire him more and more. And I try to meet that standard, and I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to, but it's something I try to do, because I want to, honor everything he's taught me and everything he's done in his own life. And yeah, man. So
how early was your I would say like your old man sharing like these stories of like his, I would say like his journey, leaving his homeland, then coming here? How early was he like breaking off these stories essentially to you?
dude, I'd say about 5th, 6th grade was when I really starting to like when I was really starting to understand them to some
So
extent.
you're about 11
Yeah,
or 12ish essentially. So
yeah,
okay.
10, 11. Yeah.
Cool. So one thing that I'm curious about, like I said, it's one thing I always ask, like, especially when I have people from my community or like, different people of color that come on this platform, I always ask them, when did they know what their skin tone meant to them, or when they realized they were, I don't know, Black in this country, Hispanic in this country, fill in this person of color here. When did you know America wasn't America with a C, but America with 3 Ks? Like, this country wasn't as upright as it is commercialized to be. When did that become a reality to you?
There were 3 different moments, man. One really individual where I kind of realized something ugly about myself. I'll kind of talk about 2 of those. There was the moment, so the group my dad supported, this was pretty early, man. The group my dad supported was labeled a terrorist group by the State Department and various entities as pretty much a geopolitical game to get people to come to a table. And like, I'm like, wait, my dad's not a terrorist. Like, he's not a bad person. They don't want bad things. So that was kind of a moment, right? And like, the cognitive dissonance and the propaganda and the indoctrination from school and media is so strong that they're still like, you still fuck with America though. Like, I still fuck with America though, right? It's like this weird little kind of, thing in your head. And then I had this moment, and I'll be real about this. When I was younger, they would talk about the demographic shift, and it used to bother me. I couldn't identify why that bothered me, right? Because people talk about it in our conservative town and stuff, and you're like, yeah, this is not good. And then like, you get older, and you're like, wait, why is that not good? You get to kind of explore the thought, and you realize, whoa, I wouldn't want to be the minority in this country. Why is that? And you start to look into that feeling more and more, right? And then this one, and I don't even like to talk about this because it's like, it's embarrassing and it's like gross, but it's real. I was at community college early on, American River College here in Sacramento, and it was pretty diverse campus. Sacramento's fairly diverse, and there's this Black dude. He would show up pretty late to class oftentimes, and I never really thought much of it. And he was always really quiet, like really quiet. It was a philosophy class, and then one day he just rose his hand to make a point. I can't remember specifically what it was because it's been about 10 years now, and he dropped some knowledge, dude. Like, it just was a great take, and I remember being surprised. And at first I want to tell myself, oh, I think it's because he was, like always late and stuff like that. But then I realized I'm making so many assumptions about that. I think I was surprised because of the color of his skin. That was a thought in my head. Like I realized, is that why it was? And I think that was a moment for me personally where I was like, shit, dude, I have some pretty fucked up views on stuff, and I got to start to like explore that, because it left me with I felt uncomfortable upon like my surprise. I was like, why am I surprised by that? Because I like wasn't sure I'd have been surprised by someone else doing that. And then the moment it really hit for me, I mean, there was things like Donald Trump, right, his election, like the rhetoric stuff, but like the moment it finally like just hit to the point where like I want to actually actively stand up and do something about this shit was his commentary about the squad, man. When he was commenting about the squad and going back to their own country, I mean, his
Talk a
boast.
little bit about, because I don't think people amidst of everything that 45 kind of did
Yeah.
in this in his term, but talk a little bit about that, because I don't think people realize like the much of an impact that specifically had, the rhetoric and how dangerous that was and who it fueled essentially.
Dude, that was kind of it, because like I grew up in what I now know to be like a really racist town, man. Like, and it's not like, from my perspective, like there's kind of two kinds of like racism I feel like I run into now. And there's people who like don't think they're racist, right? Like I didn't think I had racist beliefs, but now looking back, I realized that I did and possibly do, right? You're always trying to deconstruct these things. But like the town wasn't overt, but you would say things like, for example, like the certain pivots about like statistics on crime, right? Or outcomes or things of that nature. But the thing that specifically did it, man, was when he was talking about the squad, the four members, four ladies of color, and he said that they need to go back to their country and fix things there. And three of them were born here. So it's like, what are you determining? Like, what are you looking at that makes you think they have to go back to their country? And like that just hit me, man. Because I was like, I've heard that same line with like my dad and things like that when he's standing up for things and things of that nature. And that just like. And I think that was a really sad moment too, because I was like, I think people have to actually like get slapped with this personally to some extent for them to really understand it. And I feel like not a lot of people can get slapped by it personally if they attach a certain level of whiteness to this dude. And so those comments there did it, man. When he talked about the both sides at Charlottesville, that was just like, what are we talking about? Like, I mean, so like it really forced you to figure out what side do I want to be on all this, man. Like it's enough to it's not enough to know, right? You have to actually fucking start to feel it and really give a fuck about it. And those moments was just like too much to like ignore and like not want to involve myself within this to some capacity and try and learn more and see how I could help. So that's the kind of story I go through.
Yeah, I feel that. One of the comments somebody left in here is, we are all ingrained with an implicit bias, whether we realize it or not. Even myself, like, and like I can relate to this for myself, is because of like how media portrays the Black experience very early. I started profiling and policing myself to the point I had anti-Blackness in me very early. It's very easy because, one, we live in a country, like for me specifically, we live in a country where they want you not to nurture your Blackness and they want you to demonize it, while at the same time they're demonizing your Blackness to like people with your upbringing and everything like that, with your pigmentation, that it becomes so implicit and so covert opposed to overt that it just seems normal. It's until we have to actually challenge these biases when we realize, oh, this is a problem. And then I think we all have some sense of a moral responsibility to make a decision at that point. It's whether we're going to be outraged by this bias or we're going to comply and just fall in line with these biases.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like you said, you kind of have that decision, and it's the outrage or the comply. And obviously, it's the outrage, because like as you learn more and more, like I don't think I'm gonna ever fully be able to like completely grasp just how harmful and just how destructive this country has been to certain communities. Like even like when I consider how harmful it's been to like my country, like I can't compare like our foreign policy to what we've done to people within these borders in our history. And as I get older and older, dude, it just gets sicker and sicker. And like I always grew up, you grew up in a sphere like we can like we conservatives, right? I grew up conservative, like my mom's side of the family and stuff. Like you consider yourselves like facts over feelings, like, oh, we really care about like logic and stuff like that. But like if you really fuck with that, right, and then you actually start to come across the facts and the data and reports from our own like government entities and stuff like that, dude, it's just it gets to a point where it's so undeniable. And then like when you like try and talk to people you grew up with who you thought would be like receptive to, like, because like you grew up with your friends and family and stuff, and you think like, oh, I'm learning about this, like let me try and like help them learn about this. And when you see just how entrenched some people are, it just makes you more fucking angry. Like And I don't like it. It's just, yeah, man. Like I don't like that. That's been the hardest part. And like, it's just like people I grew up with who like I thought would kind of be able to learn along the way with me, seeing so many of them not want to learn, like not at all. Like there's no ability to even concede. Like you said, like they're just so willing to comply with it, and they just stay so entrenched with the narratives and the stereotypes and the propaganda. Um, it's depressing, dude. You know, like it's actually depressing because like you grew up thinking like these are like good people and stuff, and it you have a hard time reconciling like if they are good people or if they are redeemable, like because these are fucked up beliefs, you know. So
Yeah, I feel that for sure. It's like for me, especially having many people that were in the military in my family, from grandfathers to my actual biological father, many cousins, friends that that, and even like this, it's weird, even like this obligation when I meet like service members, and I'm just like, thank you for your service. But then I'm also like, to what expense? You know what I'm saying? Like who, like you for our betterment to somebody else's detriment. There is that weird reservation where for myself it's like, I don't know if I want to take pride in this, because it's like, and even like, and I think I've heard you speak about this, is like, essentially they're thugs for America, but it's all about, especially given like if they're trying to make it out of a certain like environment or circumstances, it's like, what else are we supposed to do? It's it's unfortunate, dog. It really is. And I can only imagine, like, I mean, obviously I have my own reservations with this country, as as an American of African descent. But you're the child of you're the son of a refugee. So I can only imagine like what impact that has on you personally.
yeah, man, that goes back to the weird part because like this country like is the reason why he had to flee his homeland to some extent, and then this country also provided him a space with which to flee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and that's a contradiction. Like, and that's not a contradiction that like, because I like contradictions. Like when you plant ideas, you try to reconcile things, and then there's like an area to kind of explore things. That's one I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to like reconcile. Um, because that's the tough part. The tough part is like like because I know like growing up we're like the Pledge of Allegiance and all that jazz, right? And even then, like from a young age, even like beyond all this stuff, I'm like I don't know that I love this stuff, right? It seems kind of weird. Like like I love my parents, I love like soccer, I love my friends and stuff. I don't know that I like love that flag or like I love this country. It's like a weird concept even to me as a young person. And then like when you start to get older and you hear your father and his family stories and friends like that, right? And then it really gets harder. But I don't know. Like it goes back to what you're saying, man. Like I can't like I can't do that anymore. Like this July 4th, like for the first time ever, like the previous July 4th, I didn't celebrate the 4th. Like I didn't do anything like active against it. I just didn't celebrate it. Like I didn't go meet with people or do anything party wise. Like I just was like I don't celebrate this day, dude. There's nothing like I don't feel pride in this country. Like I don't feel like attachment to this country. Like don't get me wrong, I think like some of the ideals written out, like if we could actually achieve that for people, like right, like that would be amazing. But this year, like for the first time, I actually did something anti on the 4th because like I really don't, dude. Like you can't like you just brought it up like the military service stuff. Like it's not just about this nation even because like we can dive into all that, but like dude, we're a hyperpower that impacts the entire globe. Like we have military bases across like 70% of the globe. And like, so all the things that we have, like that space that was provided for my dad, what was the cost? Like you just brought up, like, what's the cost of all that? So even like the good shit you can point to here, like the cost is just too much. And so, yeah, man. And I get angrier and angrier as you learn more and more and as you hear more people's experiences. And that's the other thing that really kills me, man. It's like, as you learn more about people's experience, like, how can you like just dismiss that? That's something I don't understand because I feel like if you have any level of like empathy within you, right? If someone talks about like what this country's done to them and like why, like shouldn't that be enough to like at least fucking pause, like make you consider? So
Yeah, it's that's one of the things I just brought up, this quote by James Baldwin. American history is longer, larger, more various, more beautiful, more terrible than anything anyone has ever said about it. It's because for you to really appreciate everything that America that she has given us, you got to appreciate, or you got to recognize what America has stolen from other people. And that's where I would say it also makes you realize the human experience a little bit more too, because you got to think of what are these hurdles that I really had to come up against, and were these hurdles and were these stepping stones that I used to walk on, who did I have to step on to get here too? So it's that's why we call America her at the end of the day. America really is it's more of a human trait if you really think about it. The things that come with it, humanistic, selfish traits that we all implicitly have. It's more so, are we going to challenge them and be better of it, or be better despite of it? Or are we going to give in, I would say. But yeah, it's dicey. definitely dicey.
I mean, you just kind of hit it there, right? Like the human traits that it kind of brings out, and those are in everyone, right? I think like no matter who you are, like whatever the trait or the characteristic or the behavior, there's like a spectrum, and we all fall there sometimes, somewhere. And in certain environments, certain conditions, or certain systems, it's going to even draw those things out more, right? And I think that's one of the most telling things in conversations lately is I really listen to how people, the claims they make about human nature, because I think oftentimes they're telling a lot about themselves. They're telling a lot about what they think about systems, whether they realize it or not. And so, like, this system, dude, it breeds apathy, dude. It breeds ignorance. It breeds complicity, right? It breeds, like, this level of false pride. Because to that point, like, I know, man, I mean, I know now you talk to people and they talk about history like, oh, we won. Okay, like, what does that even mean? Like, actually, like, dive into that. Like, how could you, like, that quote you just said, right? How could you reduce that down to winning? You know, like, because like winning implies like, yeah, like how could you reduce that down to winning? It's like, like you can't. Like obviously you can, because a lot of people in this country do, but you can't reduce that down to winning, because first that makes it out like, I mean, it makes sense though, right? Because like this country is a hyperpower, and I guess if you're a part of this and you're proud of it, you're going to be proud of even the bad aspects. So maybe that's it. Maybe they just really do love the power and the power that comes with that and what that affords us. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild to say the least. Somebody posted something in the comments. It said where to go. And how Christianity portrays and demonizes Arab nations using indoctrination. So there was something I wanted to talk to you about. It was a TikTok. I think I commented underneath it, and I completely understood what you were saying. I wish I could find it. And if somebody knows which one I'm talking about, please send it to my social. There was one where you were talking about, I think it was, well, we know this when it comes to these political parties, especially like when we're talking about the right. They guise religion and spirituality, or be more specifically, and call a pig and a spade. They guise and use Christianity as a cloak to mask their, I would say, toxic patriotism, and then to hide behind it to, you know, excuse their racism, their xenophobia, their you name it. And I remember you took a huge stance. You were not so much huge, but I never heard somebody say something like this. You're like, look, I got no problem with Jesus. Jesus is fine. It's the Christians I got beef with, essentially. Did you want to kind of dive into that a little bit, especially with what this comment said as well? Especially, I think you said your dad is from Iran, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Talk to me a little bit about what you know to be, I would say, like American Christianity, and maybe what turbulence you may have had to experience and the impact that it's had on you specifically, given being the son of a refugee as well.
So it's kind of interesting, right? So like being from Iran, my dad's like fundamental fight, which is something that's obviously really shaped me, as you can probably tell by now, is against like what we would call Islamic fundamentalism. And so like from a young age, I was never, and my mom came from a Catholic background that wasn't the greatest, right? So from a really young age,
You said Catholic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Right, there it is. There it is, right?
Oh my God.
Facts, dude. That's always it too. And so that's the thing though, right? So they both came from like these, I would call spaces that were really religious, really toxic with religion anyways. And so I wasn't forced, like that was never forced on me and my family in that sense, in our sphere. We didn't have to go to church, like we didn't have to like have that conversation. It wasn't like, oh, like you have to believe in this. My dad maintained his own level of spirituality and beliefs, right? He considers himself Muslim still, and he practices in his own way. And I know my mom still believes in a entity, like a deity of some kind, that she would call God, right? But they both have a very individual way about it. And so I was really free to explore in that sense. But I grew up in a town that is pretty religious, right? There's a lot of churchgoers and stuff. And from a
Break
young
that down
age,
geographically for me, for the internet that don't know where
so
we're
I'm
talking about.
from so I'm from West Coast, California area. If you just drive like 30 minutes up from Sacramento towards like the Tahoe region, kind of more eastward, right? It just gets more rural. And so I wasn't quite in like a rural area, but I'm getting kind of close to there where you're like 5 to 10 minutes up. You're getting into like your stereotypical conservative space, right? The lifted trucks, your big old like, don't tread on me flags, your Confederate flag, stuff like that. Even out in California, you have them in some spaces, right? And
Y'all
like
got Confederate flags in Cali?
in some spaces, dude, yeah, up like in the Placerville area and stuff. It's not like a huge number like you would in the South, but yeah, man, there's pockets up here that absolutely are influenced by just white supremacy, straight up, like out overt white supremacy, right? And so again, like not having to be confronted with religion and then seeing the way that some people would talk about certain things, have certain conversations, but then fall back to, well, I go to church on Sundays or I do this. And it's just like, like, I'm not sure that erases the things that you're saying or the things that you're doing, but I was never in that sphere. And I got to a point where I was a pretty arrogant atheist, where I was like, fuck all religion, pardon me, I shouldn't say it, F all religion. And all.
Oh, dude, please don't look, man. I invited you here because I know you not to censor yourself. Plus, my beliefs. I'm a Christian. I police my own tongue. Police your tongue to the best of your ability, but don't censor yourself on my behalf.
All right.
Brother. You're more than fine. All good. All good.
Appreciate it. But I did hit that kind of arrogant stage, man, where you think you know everything, right? Like I was 18 to like, we'll call it 21. I thought I know everything. I was like, oh, there couldn't be a God and stuff like that. And then something to help was just my dad became more open to talking about his own views, for example, because it wasn't something we ever really talked about. He knew how I felt about religion and stuff. And just hearing him kind of talk about like how he still maintained his level of spirituality and his beliefs despite how certain aspects of his religion had harmed him, right? I'm not gonna say his religion, but people who followed it. And that's what helped me start to distinguish between the beliefs, right? The literature, and the followers. And that's why I've come to a point where like I don't think like religion's like some like necessary evil, like the evil thing or something like that. I just think like anything, people can become really dogmatic in whatever it is they attach themselves to, like be it their faith, their religion, their ideology, their philosophy, their politics, right? Kind of lost where we're going with this, man. But and so to go, okay, I got the TikTok where I was talking about just that kind of where I came full circle towards like, you know what, like I don't actually have an issue with like the idea of God. I don't have an issue with the idea of Jesus. Like he was teaching good things, like he was teaching really good things. Like his message was sound, in my opinion. Like what's wrong with loving your neighbor? What's wrong with trying to help the poor? What's wrong with trying to educate people and provide shelter and food and things of this nature? What's wrong with going at corporatists and stuff like that, right? I don't see what's wrong with that. But then just like actually reading like or like hearing his lessons and then seeing how the followers here, not everyone, right? Like, because your point, like there's a lot of good people who have religious backgrounds, but seeing how so many people utilize that as like a tool to judge and to condemn others, but then they don't follow the very lessons they claim to believe in. I was like, this is a huge fucking problem because it allows you this moral perch that's just, how do you can't strike someone down from a moral perch they think is unassailable, no matter how contradictory it appears from where we're standing. So.
Yeah, and then not even that, but then it's I always tell people, always tell people like like even like what you just did, and that speaks to how American Christianity is like, for instance, like I'm a Christian, you're not, you know what I'm saying? That's completely fine. You automatically felt the need to like, I would say like apologize for how you talk. I'm like, no, you're good, but that's because in this country, to be American is to be Christian. I hear somebody also say to be Thai is to be Buddhist. When it becomes something that's tied to society and the government, that's when I would say it gets a little tricky, because not everybody, not so much that it's not tailor fitted for everybody, but it's just that, bro, I don't want nobody trying to put clothes on me I ain't asked them for. And not even that, how do you know if I'm not allergic to the fabrics you putting on my skin? You know what I'm saying? So it's really weird when we have that. And then we do have people that use religion, and I will say religion because Jesus was sent to disrupt religion. I don't consider myself a religious person. It's dangerous when people do make something, try to make it a curriculum, and then they use it as a vehicle to, I would say, sponsor their bigotry in a sense. And we've seen that so much with this country. We've seen that with Roe v. Wade, where they didn't want, people to get abortions and stuff like that. But then we don't even talk about how Planned Parenthood was literally made by a pseudo white supremacist to essentially cleanse the Black community and everything that comes with that. They don't talk about how they want to have Planned Parenthood and these Christ-centered situations or just institutions that hold these places up. But they also have Christ-centered people inside of these like institutions that Black and brown people can't go to, these PWIs, you slap a St. John's and everything. So we have seen so many examples in this country where people, I can't even say that they took the gospel and aligned it with America, because I don't think they ever did personally. Slavery, enough said. But I think when you take the name of Christ and then you try to hijack it into something that is turned into essentially America, that's what the problem is. I had a Modern Warrior, aka Lance, on here on, I think it was Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, and he said, I'm cool with Christly Christians. I don't like Christians. Let Christians be Christly. I'm cool with that. When you're Christian, that doesn't really tell me anything, because Christians stormed the Capitol. Jesus probably would have stopped people from storming the Capitol. Or better yet, Jesus would have just not tried to, I don't know how to describe it. He wouldn't have aligned himself to the government, because his efforts were never supposed to be that mainstream or that grandiose, if that makes sense. So it's upsetting. It's upsetting because it's supposed to be something that's personal, it's intimate, but then it turns into something that is tyranny and dictatorship-ish, essentially. And that's essentially why it's hard, not so much hard to be a Christian, because I don't think we'll ever be the persecuted in this country necessarily, but I do think it is hard to get people to understand that's not what it's supposed to be, though I have to acknowledge the bigotry that comes with people that say I'm a Christian before. So I get it. But yeah, Jesus is cool. Christians, yeah, I can do without.
And you just hit it, man. Because I know, again, I wasn't religious growing up, but I grew up in a space where people still things like, oh, America was founded upon Judeo-Christian beliefs and stuff like that. It's like, I thought we were founded upon secularism. It's like, what are you talking about? And that's why the conflation, it's so difficult, because you'll see a Ron DeSantis say oh, we're doing this because of our religion here. They explicitly state it. And it's like, dude, these are two separate things. The way you run a government, which includes all people, and the way you run your daily, personal, individual life, like you said, based upon your beliefs, are two separate things. And that was a tough part too, right? Because we were talking about how this country makes you think about various groups and beliefs and stuff like that, right? So from my dad's side in the stories I heard, I had this dislike of Islam, right? But then also being in this country, I had a dislike of Islam, right? So what was really eye-opening for me too was encountering and talking to my dad more, but talking to Muslims who had really just open beliefs on those who, for example, they didn't care that I was atheist, right? They didn't care that I didn't believe. They say, oh, within true believers within this space, there's room for anyone. They be it Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu. It doesn't matter. They would say this is a space for everybody. So, and that things like that, right? Running to people like you, right, who have what I say, a good Christian, right? Who have sound beliefs, who really follow the word, that's really helped too. It really helped me kind of get past some of the arrogance I had towards religion.
Yeah, it's something that I did an interview late last year, and somebody said, think of your spirituality like you're smoking in the car. You don't want to hotbox everybody else that's not comfortable with you smoking in the car. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be the one inhaling it. You're the one that lit it up. It's when you try to trap everybody else in it, and then when you're like, okay, now you have to inhale this. If you just give in, it won't be that bad. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where it becomes dangerous, because we should be able to just we should, emphasis on should, be able to coexist. But when one becomes, as you said, dogmatic and becomes militant to other people's detriment, it's no longer a personal walk. It's dogmatic essentially. And it's just nasty. I think it's nasty. And like, I got Muslim partners, I got partners that do, not even kidding, I got people that are into Hinduism, I got Buddhist friends. I'm still trying to understand some of my Mormon friends. That's besides the point. They're weird. But we know to know is like, look, I'm trying to get to my version of heaven. You're trying to get to your version of heaven or paradise. And let's just not put each other through hell while we're on earth together. And I think we'll be all right. But we shall see. We'll see if we get this human thing right.
We all believe in something bigger than ourselves, right? Like even like the devout atheists, and like I said, I've come a long way. Like I'm forced to commit, right? I call myself an atheist. I'm probably more agnostic, right? Because I don't fucking know, man. I don't know when it comes down to it, right? Like these are things that are far beyond my knowledge or understanding. So like I have my beliefs and I have my thoughts, but I've become really comfortable with the idea that like I'm not gonna ever really know probably. But we all have faith in something bigger than ourselves. And one of the things that helped me was a conversation I had with my dad recently, because for a long time, I'm going to kind of butcher this a little bit, but the story of Isaac and Abraham, I always kind of flip it. But basically, it's kind of a test of his faith, right? To kill his son, and then eventually, like, he's going to follow through, and then the angel comes down and stops him. I was always like, my takeaway from a young age is like, yo, like, this is kind of weird. Like, wouldn't you rather someone, like, no matter what the authority figure they have faith in, like, stand up against what's clearly a wrong, than just follow through on faith? And then my dad's like, take it for not a literal story, but take it for a metaphor. And he goes, I think like a lot of things like religion at their like purest, and like beliefs like this at their purest, are really just like mechanisms for social justice and a better world for people if truly followed, right? It goes back to the discrepancy between Christians and people who follow Christ, right? And he's like, so think of this as a metaphor for social justice and how there's nothing too big to sacrifice for a better world for people, like, right, a better world for humanity. And I was like, oh shit, light bulb moment. I was like, okay, that's kind of opened my eyes up a little bit more. So there's little things like that have just really changed my perspective on religion and kind of humbled me within all that, and to the point where, like once upon a time, I'd been a little nervous about having this conversation, right? Like, oh, I don't know. But like when I saw the background, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm kind of excited. I hope we kind of touch on this to some degree, because I'm sure I'll be able to kind of maybe pick your brain and learn a little bit about your perspective and your beliefs, right? So
yeah, it's and I think like it's always funny like when people engage me on this, because they're like, oh gosh, what kind of a Christian am I dealing with? I'm not one of those like half black conservatives. I'm not one of those people. I'm politically agnostic, by the way. So I don't align with either political party. They're both trash. They just are. They're just awful. I mean, like literally awful, because they both get paid by the same people. They're going to be at the same, they're still going to get coffee at the same places while we're over here fighting over scraps. That's just me. I just want to treat people good at the end of the day, which is what's going to lead me to the next segment, or I would say subject matter of our conversation, is when we're talking about the importance, I would just say the importance of social justice. Talk to me a little bit about what was that light bulb moment, or what was that, I would say, like, what gave you the activism itch? Because I always tell people, once you get into this work, it is some hard work to get into, but once you catch the bug, you feel good about yourself in a sense. You're like, you know what, I'm doing something right, though this is hard. Talk to me a little bit about what was it for you that said, I gotta do something and I gotta go against the grain a little bit. What was that for you, brother?
the specific moment that first came to mind when you asked that question was 2010. At that point in time, I was graduating high school around then, and I went to Paris with my dad for an event for the Iranian resistance. And there was tens of thousands of people there. And I remember at one point the speech was being given. I kind of looked around, and there were so many people of different races, ethnicities, religions, all these things. Really, just one race, right? But like different skin colors, I should say. And it was like I struck like ages, everything, dude. Like just like such a diverse group of people, all there for just one thing: freedom. Like literally just wanted a better world for everybody. And I was like, yo, this is powerful. Like this is such a powerful feeling. Like I want to keep being in this space. I want to keep trying to contribute to this. And then the second one was a same type of event in 2018. There was nearly 100,000 people at an event in Paris, against the regime, and the regime tried to bomb that event. And I remember thinking, like, not being like afraid, not being bothered by that, but like feeling angry, because again, it was the same type of space with like elderly, with young, with like everybody you could imagine there, right? And I was like, this is literally how evil some of the things that we're up against are, where they would literally try to attack an event like this with people like this here. Like there's this like just a complete lack of regard for life in any capacity. And it just was to the point where like I'm never gonna back down. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, it's never this can never stop. Like this is a fight we always have to continue and push. And it goes back to like my dad, man. So much of this just is my dad. He a lot of people talk the talk. That dude walks the fucking walk. And so that's the standard I always want to meet, if anything, just to try and just make him like proud as a son, just try and live up to the standard he sets, like I said at the beginning. So
Do you think that because he had the standard set out of necessity for survival, that this has become a thing for you, opposed to, because I've noticed, like, especially when we're talking about like for instance, like the Black experience, a lot of us are activists because of necessity, to preserve life and preserve our Blackness in some sense. Do you feel like because of your dad's story, where he had to go against the grain for preservation, that it, in a sense, it was passed down to you, and this has become a little bit easier to adjust to?
yeah, 100%. Because to your point, like I don't actually have to be involved, right? Like I'm not in that space. I never was in that space directly, so it's not something I ever had to do. And so, like, once you do get to opt in, right? Because that's part of the thing is some people who look like me, for example, this going to I can opt out of that conversation. I don't have to take part, right? It's not the survival thing for me, right? And so to that end, it's like you can't though, man, because once like you hear their stories and because like it goes back to empathy, man. If you feel like when people tell their stories, you can hear the pain in their voice, you can see the pain in their eyes, and you can feel that shit, dude. Like you can really feel that shit, and like when you feel it, like you can't walk away from it. And then like again, you start to think about other people and like other stories and how this country does it here. And my dad started talking to me about some of that stuff too. He goes, my fight's Iran. He goes, but if it wasn't for Iran, my fight would be here with this system. He goes, it goes for me, Iran, and then this system. And it's exactly that. It's like, because you have an obligation. Like if you're in a position where like you don't have to deal with these things, and like you start to understand that like you benefit from these things, or at least aren't outright harmed by these things, and you know about it, like you have a fucking obligation to do something from a moral and ethical standpoint. And like if you don't, it eats at you. Like it eats at you. At least it does for me. So like I you know.
I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, my brother. I feel compelled in my spirit to tell you this is, and I don't know if your dad's living or not, but I just wanted to let you know that you are definitely your father's legacy. You know what I'm saying? Where like I can tell that, you know what I'm saying, like not even though he had to unfortunately grow up with this work out of necessity, I will tell you that you are definitely your father's legacy, man. I think if he hasn't said it already, he's proud of you. He sees a lot of himself in you just from the little I do know, and you've been able to share with us today, man. So I just wanted to give you your flower. We give our flowers on here, by the way. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to say that to you, my brother, for sure.
I appreciate that, man. I'm really lucky. He's still around, so I'm still learning from him every day. So he's still doing his thing. He's actually excited. He's about to retire pretty soon from his engineering job. He's like, now I can go 110% all day long with my activism and stuff. So I really appreciate that, man. Like seriously, thank you. Like that's truly kind. So
no problem, man. No problem. One thing that I think this will be interesting for other people to kind of pick your brain about, because like I said, I like to humanize a lot of different content creators to some sense and degree. What made you want to start Mute the Media? Like, what was it for you that said like, this is my vehicle, this is what's going to look like, and this is how I'm going to run it? What made you start Mute the Media, or better yet, what birthed Mute the Media? I would say that might be a way to kind of start from this.
So I always kind of wanted to get into media. Like I said, like growing up and just seeing like the way corporate media told the stories, that impacted me. I was like, yo, this is all bullshit. So then you get to a space where I'm a communications major, about to be done with all that jazz. And so I really had an emphasis on mass media and just like kind of learning how narratives are told, supported, how people and their behavior and like just actions are taken from all this. I wanted to impact that. And at first I thought I wanted to be like a journalist, man. I wanted to just go out there and expose and like, tell the stories. And I realized like we live in a time where like disinformation travels so fast. I'm not sure truth is as relevant, but what I do know is we have to have a space where like people can tell their truth away from the corporate narratives, away from the oligarchs, away from the government stories. And that's what this is, man. I really want to create a platform that's a truly two-way space where people can talk about their experiences, where people can talk about the real things, can have honest and true discussions. They can feel safe, like, kind of being authentic and transparent about themselves. Because if we're really genuine and if we're really kind of fighting for the same things, then that's a space where you can kind of be honest about the kind of negative aspects within you and grow and learn. And so, you study the people of the past, and the reality is you need a brand name and something that's going to kind of appeal to everybody on the surface, right? And I think a lot of people are sick of the media climate. I hear everyone say, "Oh, the media does this, the media does that." You hear how like Donald Trump weaponizes a term like attacking the media, which is a fascist playbook, things like that. And I figure, you know what, fuck it, man. Let's mute the media. And within there's nuance to that, right? You can't actually mute media because we wouldn't be having this conversation then, right? But really, I was just trying to improve our media literacy, right, and just become better with how we utilize media, because it is such an amazing tool, and we're going through a really massive paradigm shift in terms of information, how it flows, and how it impacts us as a society. And so I just want to, plant my flag in that scene and try to make an impact and try and change things for the better there. So.
Yeah, and I've noticed like some of the examples that I've seen you guys do. I think it was last week. I think it was right after my interview with Lance. You guys were like essentially broadcasting like a protest. So is that like something that you guys normally do where you amplify different like activists? And when I say activism, because I think a lot of people get it confused, and I'm gonna say this publicly too. Protest is like maybe 2% of the work, I would say, guys. Like, cool, hitting the streets, that's fine. Activism is way more multi-layered than that, but that's another concept. That's another conversation for another day. But that something that you like envision for yourself, where it's like we want to help amplify different people that are doing the work, hit boots to the ground essentially? Because I thought that was shocking. Because I was just thinking, okay, this is going to be something, because I've been checking you guys out for a little bit. I thought it was going to be like, oh, social commentary, this is a way for us to challenge one another. But it's like, oh, they actually got people hitting the streets. Like, they're broadcasting that. Is that something that you've always envisioned with Mute the Media?
Honestly, man, it wasn't like I didn't have like a hard plan. It's just something that as it kind of comes, you try and kind of learn, adjust, and do things you think can help. But something I did know is I wanted to help create a space where like people who didn't look like me could tell their stories and tell their experiences, right? Because I have my story and my experience within a certain lane of life, right? But everyone has their story, everyone has their experience. So yeah, if we can find people who are, at the front lines of something, if they have information that we know, and we can amplify that, and I can like kind of build a platform to help amplify things that kind of cut against the corporate structure, absolutely, man. Like, and that's something that was pretty cool. Like, Closet Talk 101, they were kind of at the front lines of like Roscoe's Chicken about a month ago. What was going down there, and they're like it was a really cool thing to say. Just like all these different kind of groups in a online sphere mobilize and turn it into actually real action on the ground in real life. And so yeah, if we can help people get their message out, absolutely, man, that is something that going forward I'm gonna try and do more and more. That goes back to the people I have like running with me, and people like Cheyenne, who is the producer, Wonder Woman Right Fighters in here right now, Carnage is in here, like really good people who like kind of alert us to stuff, and like they make connections, and like, hey, someone's doing this right here, can we try and help with that? And if we can, we want to, man, because it's about getting horizontal and kind of like connecting all of our various fights and all of our various things that we're doing. So
Yeah, and I think that something like that is cool. I like to call, like, because I have something set up I'm working on building, and I've established with like different activists I've met, whether in the streets or around the world. I call it like the pipeline. So it also, I would say that, and we can talk about this a little bit off camera, but it does create a sense of intimacy and community too, because it's like, okay, cool, I heard something like this is happening in this state. Instead of going there and stepping on somebody's toes, let me look and see if somebody's already got like something in motion. I can help get it across the finish line. It's a way of attaching the organism essentially to one another. It's, hey guys, we got limbs over here, we got limbs over here, let's find a way to connect. I think that's dope, dude. I think that's what's up. That's what's up.
appreciate it, man. Like you just said, and it is cool because like at the heart it is about like, hey, dude, that's like, I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but it's kind of at the heart of the like human experience, right? It's just like communicating with one another, like learning from like each other's experiences, kind of getting to hear what people are tapped into, and then and then trying to do something about it. Because like you said, it's a cool feeling, man. Like one, because it's not, you don't do it like to get something individual out of it. Like I think anyone for the most part is probably lying if they like say like there's no individual component to things, like even when you're thinking about the collective, right? But you really are doing it because like we're all fighting for something bigger. And even if we're not occupying the same lanes, we don't necessarily have the same strategies or like the same ideas. If you share like the really core values like equity, justice, certain human rights, things like that, right? Like then that's what it's all about. And it's cool to find like-minded people when there's so many people who seem to be working so damn hard against these things.
Yeah, and then not even that. This is it's a good way to, as you say, it's not even so much. I look at it as not so much mute the media, but talk about the things the media is not talking about. So it's giving other people a voice, and it's giving other people the opportunity to highlight certain things that people keep glossing over intentionally or unintentionally. So yeah, that's what's up, man. I mean, like that's some good. When I say like that's good work, because a lot of these things, when it comes to activism, there's so many things you can fight about, but that's either because of things you've heard about or you know about, and then being able to highlight these things, the least of these issues, I think that that's important. So that's some good stuff, man. Where are you guys with that as we're talking about like mute the media? Do you guys have like a website? You guys have like a bulletin board? Like what are things that we could like look out for as far as to help people with some sense of direction when it comes to like the work you guys do?
The biggest two things I'd say is right now, we're trying to really focus the YouTube show going forward, which you do Monday through Friday weekly, is trying to find like actual like causes to highlight within each specific show, certainly Monday through Thursday, right? So if there's someone we can get on, even through TikTok, right, who's like kind of doing something, alerted to something, then we can try and point people towards those resources, trying to help crowdfund things. That's something that Cheyenne is awesome about. She has her crowdfunding idea and like that's actually been put into action, which is just finding people who need help and trying to just get direct cash to them, right? To just kind of support people. If our government's not going to do it, let's try and do it as a community. The biggest thing is we don't have a set website. We got the link tree, meetthemedia.org, links out to the link tree, and there you can find various things across social media. But the most important things is there's usually links near the top for the things we're kind of focusing on, like Stop Line 3 when that was like kind of first here in the newsways, right? You have a link to that, the direct website, so if you're getting more information, find ways to help. We have a change.org petition for what's going on down in Rutherford County, Tennessee, for example, and things of that nature. So the things that we're kind of like getting focused on, we'll put up there and kind of have like resources people can go to. But like I said, man, this is a few months in the making so far. So like literally every day I'm learning and we're learning and we're trying to kind of improve the process and figure out what we really want this thing to look like. So I'm not a plan guy, dude, because like life's so dynamic. So I have a general idea of like the endpoint I want, but beyond that, we just kind of try and figure it out as we go. So.
And I think that's what's beautiful about this work to some extent is like it goes back to, I keep saying the human experience is like we're just figuring it out. A lot of people when they ask me like, how are you doing this? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm learning how to ride my bike by bumping into the wall a little bit. That's basically how this is going. Absolutely. Oh man. My next question I have, and I am curious about this. And going back to like I said, I think that this is important because I think that this is something that people need to kind of grab hold to is when we're talking about the things that people don't see, the things that keep us up at night or that seem to like, I would say like shake us in a sense, or basically just remind us that we're human. You know what I'm saying? Like we have something that is our kryptonite as the human experience goes. What is something that you would want people to, I guess, like know about mute the media, or at least this figurehead of mute the media? And what's something as far as like, when I say like, I don't know how to describe it. Like one, like the issues that we see around the world that has impacted you in a sense that made you go like, ow, that one hurt. You know what I'm saying? What is something that people don't know that is heartbreaking to you when it comes to this work?
Oh man. Dude, the Middle East, man. Like just like people recall if you're around me in the circle, like I got really emotional and passionate. I'm pretty passionate, dude, but like the conversation with, like Afghanistan, like that hurt. Like those couple weeks where it was the main story, and like because like for some people it's just a blip in the news cycle. But
It was just a way
hurt.
to touch the algorithm or to talk about in social circles. I get you.
But like that was it, man. Like just like, dude, U.S. imperialism, man. It goes back to like seeing like Palestine, right? Like just seeing like the end result and seeing like hearing the mothers cry, right? Hearing the fathers cry, seeing the children cry. Like that shit hits so hard because it sounds exactly and it echoes exactly like the stories from like my dad and their friends. And like, I've had people who've gone back to fight with the resistance who haven't come back and stuff, and like that shit really hits. It's really personal, man. Like, cause everyone, right, like you're saying, everyone has something personal that either kind of stops them in their tracks or really kind of gives them some fire to go. Um, that's why, like, I always separate between like the U.S. nation, the U.S. empire, and you got to bring it back together. But dude, the U.S. empire, dude, like just like how we impact this entire world, that shit hurts, dude. Like, because people will talk about how this is such a great country, et cetera, et cetera. And even if we concede that, it goes back to what you're saying, at what cost? And as you get older and older and you encounter more and more stories and you see the cost more and more, it hurts more and more every day because it goes right back to why, like, my dad's here to begin with and why, like, I have this passion to begin with, right? Is US imperialism. So, yeah, man, it's just the machines, the machine's evil, dude. Like, see, anything that would touch the Middle East always just gets me in a really emotional space.
Yeah, I feel you there. What's something that you do to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally? Because it's one thing to have like a physical ailment in a sense, because those you can remedy in some sense. You got a broken bone, you gotta put a cast on to realign the bones. If you got a scar, put some. If you ghetto, you know what I'm saying. If you ain't got no band-aids, you put some Neosport and some duct tape, you're good. But for the scars that people don't see, like for instance, you just talked about how the Middle East really plays a part and impacts you. What is something that you do to take care of everything up here? Relating back to my spiritual beliefs, when people say the heart of a man, I believe the heart of a man is up here, because you can get a heart transplant, but you still have the same ideologies, desires, and everything up here. What is something that you do to take care of your heart, your mind, your soul, your spirit when these difficult things come up as an activist doing this work? You're muted, brother.
Doing that thing. Thank you, sir. Two things come to mind, man. The first is I love to write. So oftentimes I just it's a good way to get it out of my system, man. I love to write. Sometimes just for myself, and I'll keep it to myself, where you can be just fully transparent and maybe even put things down that like you didn't even know were like you didn't even want to admit necessarily, right? And so just kind of getting that out helps. And another one is, dude, honestly, I love my front porch, dude. I love to just wake up, toss on some music, sit there, kind of look at the trees, and just allow the sounds to hit me, because sometimes sounds can tap into like those emotional feelings in a way that words or other forms of expression just never could. And it's I don't know if I'm gonna call it meditation. It's kind of my own form of just like finding peace to start the day. So and then do just good relationships, man, like your friends and family who you share values with, who know what you're up about and they support you. Tapping into them and kind of letting them know when I'm having those down days, those down times, right? And knowing that they'll support you, and they don't even have to say anything, right? Just kind of knowing there's people there who want to know if you're down, who want to know if you're struggling, who want to be there for you regardless of what that looks like. So I'd say relationships, music, and writing, and sports, man. Sports is a healthy way to get it out.
Absolutely. And you touched on something that I've been really trying to drive home with people I've had on here, especially whether you do this work or you're just an artist by trade. Talk about the importance and the significance of community, establishing a community and having that support system. There's a difference between having a circle and people in your corner. Talk about the importance of having community when it comes to doing this work.
I mean, because that's kind of what we're doing it for, right? Is like it goes back to like we all believe in something bigger than ourselves, whatever that is, and it starts with your community, right? Actually, it starts with yourself, right? So like you gotta reconcile out some of your bullshit, right? Have your own kind of. It's how all stories kind of go, right? If someone has to deal with their own internal bullshit, right? Then they kind of get confronted by the world in some sense, and they kind of find a way to navigate that and try and deal with that. And you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for people you love, you're doing it for like people in general. And it starts with like your community, it starts with the people around you, and then you try to expand outward. And so we always come back to that word, but I think people want like these like big, easy, quick fixes, and like that's too big, that's too broad. No one has a brush that big, right? So I think it comes down to finding the people who you can kind of relate to on a personal level, relate to on an emotional level, relate to on a spiritual level, relate to with values. And that doesn't have to be like your blood family and stuff like that, man. That's just because like you don't choose that, right? That's just finding people.
Man, I tell people that all the time. Family is not biological, it's chemical. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely people you have chemistry with. But continue. I just wanted to drive that home real quick.
Because that's it. But that's literally it. And that's like kind of the beauty of like us as humans. We do get to kind of dictate our path to some extent. So that's it right there. Like we have this amazing ability to kind of choose and manifest for ourselves the paths we want. To some extent, right? Obviously, there's external things beyond all of our control to various levels. But the cool thing is, like you said, it starts up here. And if you can master this shit, and we're always trying to get better at it, but if you can master this shit to some degree, you'll find that like the paths that open up to you are not what you thought they could be. So.
Yeah, and you know what? I've come to find out, and people tell me this all the time with my community I've established. It's so easy as an activist to fight for other people, but it's really hard to allow other people to fight for you, whatever that looks like. Whether it's a, hey, Matt, how you doing today? And you want to hit them with the generic, like, oh, I'm cool, man, I'm all right. But then it's the, no, really, how you doing? Like, that's what it looks like to allow people to fight for you and to be in community with other people, establishing that intimacy and seeing you without your armor on, essentially. Like, you know, like I said, I think that sometimes when it comes to this work, we fight so hard to have people see what we want them to see, that sometimes that we end up making the things that are human about us invisible, and we end up doing us a disservice. You know what I'm saying? I think that's super, super real.
You just hit it because like it's not an easy space to be in, right? When you put yourself out there in some sense and you get a lot of criticism and you get a lot of like attacks and stuff, and you have to like harden the shell, right? You got to harden the skin. You got to tell yourself like, I don't give a shit what people have to say. Like, I don't care about the negative like pushback. Like, they don't know all that jazz. Like, but to your point, like you can't like allow that to like become who you are in your personal circle and these interpersonal relationships, stuff like that. You got to remember to like kind of drop it and be a human still. Cause like to some extent, like I say, it's not fake, right? Like you, like I'm an angry motherfucker, right? But like, like, you know, so, but you got to find like a healthy way to channel that. And then you got to remember like there's a time and a place for that. And there's a way to do that. And that can't be something like you unleash like in your personal sphere and stuff like that, especially with the people who do give a fuck about you, who do support you, who do want the best for you and what you're trying to do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you got to go soon, and I'm curious if you're able to do this with me, because this will kind of give me an idea if I'm gonna like you as a person or not. Do you have time for quick hitters by chance?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So basically, the quick hitters, for those that know and have watched the Kid Casper podcast before, this is basically where I ask my guests a couple of yes or no, either or questions. And this is just for sport to, like I said, we're here to humanize these content creators and these people at the end of the day. So my first question, Doritos or Pringles?
Doritos.
Seriously? Huh? Mm-hmm. You like having air and empty promises as a snack. All right.
I love it. Kill the hope.
Kill the hope. That's absolutely awful. Good gosh. Skittles or Starbursts?
Oh, God. Starbursts.
Starbursts. Right. All right, T.
Can I go back? Can I say Skittles? Let's take it back.
Yeah, you can say Skittles.
I felt regret. Skittles.
Gotcha. Okay. Flats or drums when we're talking about chicken?
Oh, I'm about to get canceled. Give me my premium chicken nuggets. Give me my premium chicken nuggets. Boneless, baby.
You're childish.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I told you I have the taste buds of a juvenile little 5-year-old, dude. 100%.
That is wow. As complex the paradox into the mat or mute the media experience, I'm judging you out loud and inside internally. Have no idea who you listen to music wise. If you had to pick, Pharrell or Kanye?
Probably Kanye.
All right. Not a wrong answer. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Prince.
Instrumentation or just catalog is just better than Michael's for your opinion wise?
I think the catalog's just better, man. And I have this thing where like I'm like an antagonist at heart, and there's a lot of people around me who loved Michael Jackson, and so like I'm like I didn't like the sound that much as a kid, so I was like, oh, it'll piss them off. But I don't like Michael Jackson. I think I just kind of kept some of that energy, and then I did like some of Prince music when I came across it, so probably Prince for me, man. But it's not like it's not really an anti-Michael Jackson thing though.
You're
Like,
just a
got some good stuff
contrarian
out
at
there.
heart. You know what I'm saying? You go get chicken nuggets when we ask you what kind of chicken wings you want. What the hell? All right. If you could go and see, this is a concert lineup, you pick opener, mid, closer. Who's performing at this concert?
I know for sure it's gonna have. Okay, actually, I got this. Opener is gonna be Chevelle. Middle, Deftones. Closer is Nine Inch Nails. It's like I grew up loving like rock and like metal and just like that kind of scene. So yeah, Chevelle, Deftones, Nine Inch Nails. My dream lineup.
All righty. You're having dinner. 5 dinner guests. Dead or alive. Who's at this dinner table with you?
Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe. Let me think about this. This is a good question, actually.
You know he's a Baltimore native, right? Edgar
do.
Allan Poe. I'm actually from Baltimore, so that's pretty dope.
I just love his work, man. Teddy Roosevelt, maybe like a political figure comes to mind within the American sphere. My middle name is Musa, so Musa Khaibani was a great revolutionary. My dad really admired, so he's someone I'd have there. I'd love to pick his brain. Friedrich Nietzsche, probably go with him as one, and then Bill Gates. I want to figure out what he's actually about. Actually talk to him and get a feel for him myself in an interpersonal sphere. Bill Gates, and not because I like to do anything. I just want to actually know what he's about, right? Like, because like we always talk like corporations, big entities and stuff, and like him, Bezos, or Zuckerberg. I'd want one of them just to actually be able to go at in a sphere like that. So not in terms of admiring them, but just I want to figure out what they're about.
Gotcha. I don't know if this is it for you, but for me, does Bill Gates always look like he's like holding in a fart that he just does not want to let out for some odd reason? Like, I don't know what it is. I'm like, he is holding in the world's longest fart since like the first compact computer to now. I don't understand why he makes that face.
Dude, I think it's all three of them have that face to some extent. I think it's like they're all holding some shit in, dude, or they're all just trying so hard to like act normal in that space. I don't know, but what's normal? So
absolutely. And my last and final question, if you could see anybody on the Kid Casper podcast, who would it be? But your answer has got to be somebody you could help get on here essentially.
Ooh, that's good. All right, let me think about this real quick because I want to make sure this is actually like a I feel like, all right, so I got a buddy who's someone I really admire in this space. He's someone who's been around Mute the Media, and he's like he keeps my head level. I think he's got a good perspective, and we come from like really different backgrounds, and he has viewpoints on America I don't always agree with, but this dude's got a good heart. Like he's got a really good heart, in my opinion. I think he's really about it. Like, you know, like people talk about these things, like Afghanistan, for example. A lot of people talked about it, but he put his money where his mouth was. He really tried to help out. He's like put his time to help, like with like and like teaching people English and stuff, like refugees who come here and things like that. I know him and his kids, they actually like follow up on stuff. So no use for names. That's someone I'd like to see in this space.
No use for names. All right. I don't think I'm familiar with him. Is he on TikTok by chance?
He is on TikTok. He's a good dude, man. He's a good dude. That's someone I'd like to see on this space. I think you guys would hit it off well.
Oh, Shy says that that seems to be a good answer. So all right, I'll check that one out. And first off, brother Matt, thank you for the last closing statement. Here on the Kid Casper podcast, what can we expect from you or Mute the Media in the future to come, essentially?
More of the same, man. Just gonna try and get better at this. Unapologetically, we're gonna try and expand and take over the different. Dude, I want to take down Fox, CNN, MSNBC, and show people what a real media platform can look like that actually gives a fuck. I'm gonna continue to be authentic, try to be genuine, try to take in like the criticisms that come my way, right? Try to really listen to people who have like, you know, perspectives I don't, and just try and get better with this thing, man. Like, you know, that's all you can do is try, learn, and improve. So what you see and if you've liked this shit already, we're just trying to get better at it and try and keep doing the same thing that is already working. Shave off the shit that doesn't work and improve. Simple as that, man. Really want to change the world, dude. Like, like it sounds cheesy, but like this world's fundamentally flawed from its foundation. And so the goal is to cut out that foundation. And it starts with media, in my opinion, because that's how we tell stories.
I'm with that for real. All right, brother. Well, thank you, brother Matt, for sharing this space with me, man. This was dope. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I know this is a little different because we're here on a Sunday night. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's trying to watch football. I feel like that's secretly why Matt's trying to leave me right now. He's just gonna go and watch people bashing each other in the head. I'm just kidding. That's I mean, that might be it. I don't know. That's completely his business. It ain't none of my business. But thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. I should be back here on Tuesday. Actually, no, I have an interview with Kaylin Goody on Kaylin Good, I believe is how you enunciate that black woman's name. I should be back here on Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always remember, you are beautiful, blessed, and beloved. Raisins don't go in potato salad. Question, because even though you said you eat like a juvenile, I'm curious. Do you put mayonnaise on peas?
I don't like peas to begin with, and they shouldn't go on peas. Like mayonnaise belongs like with a sandwich if you're gonna do that. But like, I don't. Why would you people put mayonnaise on peas? Like that's an actual thing.
Yeah. Another thing I gotta ask. Would you ever put condensed milk on avocados?
Dude, I'm not touching avocados to begin with, and I'm certainly not touching condensed milk. 2%.
Raisins, always remember, you are beautiful, blessed, and beloved. Raisins don't go on potato salad, and Jesus wasn't white. Have a good night.